Hello, this is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about this huge story with Project Veritas, which you touched on it before, but it is official that James O'Keefe is no longer a part of the organization. So the story is pretty crazy. I've seen some people say, hey, the board said that they had reasons and that he was misusing funds and stuff. The things that they complained about were ridiculous. I did watch O'Keefe's entire video. If you're interested, I would encourage you to go ahead and watch it, because the timeline that he runs through is pretty crazy. He doesn't flat out say, hey, I think they're ousting me because of the Pfizer story. And I don't want to say that he's inferring that, but he does ask the question, and people have been asking the question, like, why now with this timing? It's so weird. But seeing the entire video, I questioned if the goal was to oust O'Keefe and get rid of him, or was it to just utterly destroy the company, because a lot of the things just didn't make sense in the end if you expected there still to be a company afterwards. So we'll be talking about that today. Also, Biden went over to Ukraine, and the media is fawning over him. And I just want to point out some really dumb things that is the commentary kind of circulating around. And also, we talked about Don Lemon wasn't on air at the end of last week. Like, oh, he has a day off, so he hasn't been on. And I think he's supposed to come back Wednesday, but apparently he had some kind of training. So people on the right just think it's hilarious that basically he's had to go through DEI sort of training. I don't know if it was that intense or whatever. But head of CNN was not okay with what he said. So it is a bit of a hilarious story. So we're going to at least talk about it a little bit. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. I have merchandise that you guys can check out, like the denounce white supremacy, defeat Joe Biden with a list of some of his racism on the back. We've got the I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For shirt. Really like that one. The Be Better Not Better. I also do write books. If you're interested in checking any of those out, let me show you my picture with all of them. Yep, all of them that are published right now. So most of them are fiction. I have one nonfiction book, but the one of these, or two of the books at least, because they're in a series, that's pretty interesting, I guess, especially during this time. It is Black History Month. I wrote a historical fiction fantasy series that takes place during the Civil War. So imagine like the Civil War meets X-Men. When people ask me, what should I start with? These books I think all my books are good. I think they're all pretty unique, but I think these are special, and these are my babies. So if you go to blacktnews.com and hit the merchandise button, there's a banner at the top with some of my books on them. It'll take you to the book website, my personal book website. But you can just search my name on Amazon, Christina L. Barr. But when you go to blacktnews.com, the first thing you will see is a landing page for, of course, God Is Blatantly Against Abortion. So that's a book that will be coming out in April. So you can pre-order for Kindle right now. I'm very excited about it. Put a lot of heart and soul into this book. So I hope that it blesses, and I hope that it changes the course of current events, especially in my state. Also, if I want to say, if you do like what I do here at Black T News, consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Costs to stream, costs to run my website, costs, when I do like fancy videos and have cool overlays and people are like, oh, you're so good. Thank you. And part of that stuff is, equipment and other things that I have, which Frank, I got to get some more myself. But if you can help with the overhead, God bless you, support. I appreciate it. Whether it's a gift of $10, $20, if you can do more, God bless you. Thank you guys for who are new, who are popping in, especially over on YouTube. Make sure that when you subscribe that you also hit the notification bell as well. So you make sure you're getting notified when I go live or when I post a new video. I don't know why YouTube and other folks make it an extra step. I especially on Facebook, people tell me all the time, there's like, Facebook will ask, do you want to see less of this content? And I'm just like, why do they do that? Because they show me content in my feed all the time of stuff I'm not even following. Stuff I I have no intention of following, but pops in my feed and stuff. So I don't understand why folks that you are following, they're, I don't know, trying to convince you to not, it seems like. But thank you guys for watching, for liking, for following, all that good stuff. Also, I am in the Brighter Michigan Pack studio today. And something I do want to mention and encourage you guys to do, if you are from Michigan, we've had some tragedies as of late. There was an Oxford shooting that had happened. There was the MSU shooting that recently happened. And the Democrats are pouncing. They are, unfortunately, when there are tragedies like this, instead of people really putting their heads together to try to figure out what we can do to prevent more of these things, people try to push policies that will not stop these sort of tragedies, but punish law-abiding citizens. So there's always a fight for gun grabs and things like that. So there's a bunch of legislation that's going on, that's being introduced, that will have to be debated, that will hopefully not be shoved through. And if you would like to sign your name to petition to try to stop some of these bills and to get more information as they come out, I'll be supplying more information. I posted a link today to a petition that the Brighter Michigan Pack has. So if you are following the Facebook page, go ahead and fill out that form, add your name to the petition. I'll go ahead and put it on my YouTube feed as well when I am finished. But yeah, please take the time to do that. I've been making calls. This morning I've been reading, doing a lot of reading this morning. So we want to make sure that we address things that can really, really help to solve crises and not do something that push things that aren't enforceable without really violating people's liberties. I mean, some things that they're suggesting aren't even constitutional. So please go ahead and sign the petition for Brighter Michigan Pack to fight some of this bad legislation. They were going to push this stuff anyway because the Democrats have not had this kind of control in Michigan for a long time, and they will certainly try to take advantage of it. But yeah, they're striking while the iron is hot. And there's a lot of internal politics and a lot of confusion. We talked a bit about that yesterday. And the Republicans are kind of vulnerable right now. So we got to jump on the train, jump on the ball, and Brighter Michigan Pack has pretty good infrastructure. So this is something that we're trying to fight. So go ahead and please sign that petition and stay on your toes, and we will continue to update you. So you guys know that I like to start with something that is humorous, something that is funny. And Project Veritas has been, there was a joke that I saw about the Project Veritas thing. And I didn't know there was an element to truth to it until I guess the other night. So, and James O'Keefe ended up doing like a follow-up to play along and with the joke. But here's the first part of the joke with Project Veritas and the whole O'Keefe situation.
So the problem with James O'Keefe is not that he stole my sandwich, right? He has done it to many others. Yeah. The bigger issue is the whole theater stuff that he does, dancing and all that. Have you seen the videos? Yeah, right. most of us at the company find that pretty gay.
It is gay.
It is in fact gayer than the Pfizer guy.
So what kind of sandwich did you
the sandwich. Now we want some information
I'm
there.
curious.
I hope this is between us.
It is.
So the sandwich was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Oh, really?
The calories in that sandwich
that's
something you want to watch out for.
If he'd repay for those sandwiches, would you consider taking him back, or what's the stand?
I literally spent 2 hours making that sandwich.
Really. Good sandwich.
So it's a big issue, and I hope the board of directors can figure something out. So some people say James O'Keefe is Project Veritas. But
Do you think he is?
I think he was. Now he steals sandwiches.
So I just thought that was just like a normal, joke riffing off what they do. But one of the things that they're alleging is about him stealing a sandwich from a pregnant woman or something. So O'Keefe, decided to play along a bit.
Yeah, it was pretty nice. So did you hear the news?
You got him fired, didn't you?
Well, he resigned.
Yeah, resigned, but did he have a choice?
Well, let's just say James crossed certain lines that he shouldn't have. And that's just...
This is James O'Keefe.
Oh, hi, James.
We are aware of some dynamics in your newsroom, and, I was hoping that you could wear a camera and expose what's going on there in Project Veritas.
I am not doing that.
I'm just wondering what your comment is.
I don't have any comments, dude. I'm leaving.
How about being brave and doing something?
How about you making your own sandwich?
Well,
I think O'Keefe posted that, but he probably wasn't literally in the video. They just probably used the audio. But I think he did post that. That's how I saw it. But they one of the things that they allege is that he stole someone's sandwich. So the sort of things that the board was trying to oust him for were just ridiculous. So I have a few. James O'Keefe, he posted a video. It was about 45 minutes long. I did watch it last night. And it ran through the timeline. Again, they just had a huge story with Pfizer, and all this happened. And there's no evidence of it connecting yet. There's some kind of checks or something there's nothing like that, or at least O'Keefe has not presented something like that. But people have questioned the timing and said that the timing is very strange. At the very least, the timing is strange. So I'm going to play a little bit of his videos and just run down some of the things that I'm aware of that happened, and the pushback to all this.
Tactical disagreements about the boldness of approach.
So he addressed the staff and ran through the timeline of everything. He had all these receipts of. He actually had a screenshot of someone saying to a journalist, "Hey, you'll get a raise if O'Keefe gets kicked out or fired or whatever." He had minutes from meetings with the board. He had different social media posts from folks on the board. So he had a pretty complete laid out presentation. But here he's starting to explain some of the timeline of events and things. It started going south when he had some disagreements with some folks about how to fundraise. Now, O'Keefe has raised, I don't know. Well, he built this from the ground up, he went through the beginning of the story, how he started with this company and how it was just, how he did the Acorn stuff and how the government was harassing him and his dad had to stand up for him, and how he had to makeshift different microphones and other stuff to get his stuff down because he didn't have money for fancy equipment or everything. And he had the high of one thing, and then it collapsed and he broke again, and then he really built Project Veritas to where it is now. And he showed the different revenue of how much they've earned over the years, and it's just grown 2 million, 8 million, and the last year was 20 million. So they're killing it, and he's very good at fundraising and has been for a while. So when they're questioning about fundraising, what he's doing, he has reason to be confident that he knows what he's doing, and it is his company. and people do trust him. The sort of blowback from the donors is enormous, and we will get into that. But it's just really fascinating. If the story interests you, I do recommend actually watching the entire 44 minutes, however long it was, because it's remarkable how all of this just really played out.
There were tactical disagreements about the boldness of approaches soliciting donations. I was told, and I'm paraphrasing, by asking for X dollars right now, you will prevent 10X dollars down the road. That advice ran contrary to everything I knew to be true in my 13 years of fundraising. But that conflict was even more fundamental and essentially boiled down to this. And my vision, I'm going to paraphrase Howard Rourke, the architect, quote, I don't build in order to have donors. I have donors in order to build. That's what I believed, and I felt like we had a conflict of visions. We measure our success in terms of what we produce, not just in terms of our wallets. That was a pretty fundamental conflict, I felt. The day prior, I had informed him in front of his colleagues that if he wasn't willing to follow my lead, he'd be shown the door. I tried to deal with it privately, but I was unsuccessful, and the disagreement boiled over publicly in a staff meeting. The next day, this individual refused to resign, so I fired him. Later that same day, that's Thursday, February 2nd, a few days after the 50 million viewed Pfizer videos, I was informed by a different officer of Project Veritas that he would go to the board in a few hours from that moment and have an emergency vote to restructure this company. Receiving an agenda in my email while I was sitting on an airplane tarmac with the doors closing, the meeting was scheduled for the moment that my plane landed in Nashville. It became clear to me in that moment I would be removed from my position at Project Veritas by the time I landed at my destination. So, our mission continues on. I'm not done. The mission will perhaps take on a new name, and it may be no longer called Veritas, Project Veritas. I'll need a bunch of people around me, and I'll make sure you know how to find me. So with that, I'm going to collect my things. I'm going to load them into my car, and I hope to see some of you soon.
So that was like a chop up. I think maybe it was Charlie Kirk who had posted that snippet. So that was like a rundown that didn't even like touch the surface. That was different segments of the video. So someone had said that they couldn't see me. I don't, that might be on your end because I did just look up my phone and check it. I can see myself on YouTube, so I'm not sure why you might not be seeing me, but doesn't seem like everyone else is having that issue. So again, after this Pfizer story broke, he got into it with someone else, an employee, a colleague, I guess, about how to fundraise, and it started to get kind of more public. And O'Keefe was like, okay, we have a conflicting vision here, and they're not keeping quiet about it. So he was like, you either got to resign or got to let you go. So he let him go. And so that person in turn went to the board. And then all of a sudden this plot to get rid of James was concocted. So James really found out about it while he was on a plane. And by the time the board was going to vote to strip him of his powers, and by the time the plane landed, the meeting would be over, and he just no longer, be in control of Project Veritas. So he was, so the crazy thing to me, there's lots of crazy things, but one thing that was really crazy to O'Keefe is when he was on the plane, the stewardess was like trying to get him to get off the phone because they got to wheels up, fly away. And he asked the board, like, what will our donors and our supporters think if you push me out? And they said they don't have to know. And he was puzzled, and I was puzzled listening to it because they're just kind of like, how would they not find out? How would you keep that a secret? So that's one thing. Like, how would you just keep that quiet? And two, that's really dishonest. I mean, people really strongly feel like Project Veritas is James O'Keefe. That's how I feel. That's how other people feel. That's how donors have expressed it. That's how other big people on the right have expressed it through all these rumors that have been surging around. So that was really shady. So he convinced them to hold it off, but eventually they did like strip him of his powers, and they forced him to go away for like 2 weeks at least, and so he went hiking in the woods and stuff, and the board was like, oh, we sometimes you work so hard we got to force you to take vacation. So they're pretending that there wasn't all this internal drama and struggle going on, and saving face about what was going on. And so eventually they decided to have this big struggle session that was like 6 hours long, and they brought in some employees to the board, which O'Keefe is like, why would you do that? Just like professionally. So they brought in some people to say, you know, like he's mean at times and other things like that. But they got he talked about different stuff that they shared with like donors and other folks that were personal, like girlfriends he dated, and he's never talked about his personal life with folks like that, nor is it any people's business. And he said it was just so weird how they berated him for 6 hours, and then they gave him barely any time to really defend himself. And he really encouraged his staff, like he supplied them with the minutes of the different board meetings, and them stripping him of his powers, etc. And he's like, I cannot, or he didn't say I cannot. He said, I'm not going to provide you the video of like the struggle session, but you guys should ask for it. So there is video out there of whatever happened in that big long meeting. And he said, you should ask for the whole entire thing. I don't imagine that we will see the whole entire thing. But the only way that the board is going to be able to salvage anything, because their complaints about O'Keefe and him misusing funds and stuff isn't good enough. So unless they had some really good testimonies from the people they dragged in to drag O'Keefe, and they don't look like psychopaths for a 6-hour meeting, then they should just release it and be vindicated. But I don't think that'll be the case. I don't think that'll be the case. And so they wanted to strip him of his powers. I don't know if at that point, at some point they said he couldn't do anything for like a year, have any of his CEO powers for like a total, not a year, it was like half a year. And eventually came to a point where he was stripped of his powers like indefinitely. And so he had told the board, he had wrote to them, you know what, either you all have to resign and I'll get a new board, or I'm going to resign and you have by Monday. And they didn't resign. So he went before his staff and he explained everything to them. And he's like, I'm going to pack up my belongings. I'll make sure you know how to find me, and I'm going to start something else. So apparently that's what's going to happen. Now the board is saying that they had cause or reason, and they said he was mismanaging funds, the sort of things that they were saying he was mismanaging funds about. There was like a Project Veritas event, and they're like, oh, $60,000. And O'Keefe can raise millions and millions. You're ticked off about an event that went bad when you have all these other events and these huge, wins that they have and all these donors who support them, and you want to oust your person who is like your entire brand over 60 grand. What? And then they complain about him taking too many cars and flights, and they said that he should do more Zoom calls because that's what the IRS prefers. And he's like, how am I supposed to do my job if I can't take cars to different places, or people can't take different cars to locations? How's he supposed to do his job? And how is he not taking flights when you have like 3 events in a day, and you got to go to this event and this event and this event and raise $2 million? Like, why would you not take a flight? Like, when you get to a certain point in life, flying is the way that you save money to make money. So there was another instance. They complained about O'Keefe. I have a video of that. Let me play that really quick. I mean, just bizarre stuff. I mean, he was laughing about some of the stuff, how ridiculous it was, but they came at him for a wedding. But just check this out.
A few days later, an officer sent an email to the board with bizarre hyperbole and innuendo about certain expenses related to our business needs. These included, and you can't make this up, that Project Veritas paid for James O'Keefe's down payment of his wedding. I got a chuckle out of this. I'm not married. I've never been married.
That event was a Project Veritas Christmas party, which he was talking to the employees, and he's like, "You were there. You had a such and such Christmas outfit." And they're like, he's like, "I remember because it was great." So why would they frame this stuff like this? Why? It just looks like they made a decision. They wanted him out. They saw backlash, and they started to panic, and they're trying to cover their butts. That's what it looks like. So I guess maybe you could say the stupidity of their cover up maybe is them trying to proves that they're not purposely trying to ruin the company. But I don't know, because I was really thinking about this, and I'm like, so much of this is so stupid. Even the idea that they could have just gotten rid of him or totally depowered him, and just people would not find out, even to utter that. And I'm like, there's a saying, don't attribute to malice that can be attributed to stupidity. I'm like, but is it too stupid? Is it too stupid? Because the math ain't mathin'. It's not making any sense. It's not making any sense. So there's donors who were already upset at all the stuff going on, who wanted answers from the board as all this stuff was kind of circulating, and the board's putting out statements that don't make sense and aren't even true. I mean, there was one donor who they said alleged that O'Keefe was rude to, and she put out a video saying that wasn't true. And then O'Keefe talked about how one of the board members called her a liar, and he's like, "Why would you do that? Why would you treat a donor like that?" And why do they feel so adamant about these dumb scenarios? He said one of the board members requested a meeting with O'Keefe to come to their home, and then he's like, "You had nothing to do with that fire story." He's like, "What?" He's like, and he like pulls out the video with him confronting the guy, and like, "Well, no, the original breaking story had nothing to do with that." And so he's like the one who, like, a year ago, like, had to, in his words, like, talk someone off the ledge or whatever, to and really encourage them to go and really plow in the fire story to get this breakthrough. And like, you have to bring in people, you have to train them. There's so many people who do not want to do like this undercover stuff. And what, they do is, even though it just kind of seems like they get people on Tinder and go out to dinner with them and they spill their guts, it's more complicated than that. But that's something a lot of people don't want to do. Like, when I worked at MRP, there were people who were trackers. I don't know why I did this. They were trackers, and I've had to do tracking events. Just showing up at an event and recording stuff can be a hassle, even when people, you're trying to be covert, or sometimes you're not needing to be covert or whatever. But a lot of people don't want to do that. Some situations can get hostile. It was interesting when I was, like, I guess, covert and tracked a event when I went to the Democrat Party picnic. That was interesting. But there's only so much mileage you can get with person to person, especially as they start becoming noticeable. Actually, I met O'Keefe a few years ago at CPAC, and me and my older sister, were talking to him, and so he was kind of interested in recruiting Gina, my older sister, But I'm just like, she's too. He didn't know her very well at the time, but I guess they don't know it because we haven't. I don't think they've talked since then. But I would have said that she was too notable to kind of start doing undercover stuff for Veritas anyway, and I don't think she would have liked it, but um she could probably get people running their mouth though. Um yeah, but it takes a lot of work to train people to even do that kind of stuff. But when O'Keefe like confronted them, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that," and they said that someone else was like putting the idea in their heads. I guess that maybe they can do this without O'Keefe. So I guess maybe it's possible that they thought that they could pull this off. But it's so radically stupid. It's so radically stupid that the whole board needs to be replaced. But it doesn't matter now because O'Keefe is gone and he's gonna start his own thing. And a lot of those people will probably go and follow him and do their own thing. But that's just radically ridiculous, just radically stupid. Um, So the donors at one point during this fiasco actually had sent cease and desist letters to the board to stop them from doing some of this crazy stuff. There was a donor who had just did a spaces to raise money for Project Veritas, who it was Grant Cardone. He said, I am actively requesting all funds back from Project Veritas execs of the Veritas coordinated a fundraising event with me and James O'Keefe on Twitter Spaces January 28th, 2023, knowing they were ousting James O'Keefe. This was deceptive charity campaign practices. Project Veritas immediately send 100% of the funds back today to all who contributed on 1/28/2023 and up to when O'Keefe was ousted. So he demanded that. So I was going through the Twitter replies in it, and there were some people who were like, "Oh, I tried to get my money back," and I guess they used Anadot. Though some people, I guess, cash apped it. So there were like multiple ways. I guess they could have did it, but Anadot is a big fundraising platform. Different organize. I mean, I've used it for when I've made like campaign websites for folks. I think I used it before for my sister's thing. I know I've used it before. I know MRP has used it before. A lot of people used Anadot, but the CEO was in the replies replying to people because they're like, well, I tried and they, I haven't got my money back. And then the CEO said to someone like, well, did you message, them? And they said, well, it was sent to Veritas, and they said that Veritas has to send it back, but Veritas hasn't gotten back or sent it back to me. So then they're like, DM me. And then the CEO was under it, was like, your refund is coming to you now. You should have it. And then they're like, okay, thank you, I got it. So and it was like he's going to different people trying to help them get their money back. So and I don't know if they're undercutting or going underneath Veritas to get that refund back, but that's pretty remarkable. That the CEO of the fundraising platform is helping people to get their money back from, and is not even if Veritas doesn't want anything to do with that, and I don't know if they did or they didn't, or they made them comply, but I just thought that was pretty darn amazing. How the coordination of anger is regarding this issue. So again, the board to me doesn't have any good reason of why they got rid of O'Keefe that we have seen, that they have expressed, that they have put out there, anything that justifies ousting someone who started the company, someone who's is the company that so many people view that as, that so many people on the right said, I will not support this. There's people who are, not only requesting the money back, there's people who are, totally unfollowing. There's donors saying they'll have nothing to do with them anymore. It's just suicide for the company. And I do have to question why. And many people are questioning why. And a lot of people are questioning the timing. Again, if O'Keefe would have had something to the degree of, some evidence of the board got paid off by, Big Pharma or something, that would have been revealed. But he did talk about how his lawyers, some things his lawyers had a laugh at, or so. I don't. Besides him starting something new, I'd be worried if I was the board about how he's gonna come at them after this. I'd be definitely worried. So, um, very, very interesting. Again, it's worth the watch if the story interests you at all. Um, that's the gist of, I think, pretty much of everything that happened. But if you want like the dates of this happened, this date, this happened, this, like, go ahead and watch this video. But and then it was pretty heartfelt. Like, O'Keefe admitted he's not a very emotional guy. He's not someone who's super personal with his staff. Like, he doesn't ask them about like how's your mom doing and other stuff. He's like, he's aware that that's a character flaw of his, but he got a bit emotional because this is his life's work. He's put so much time into it, and to think that a board would just come in and oust you like this over this. Not only outs you, but it's gonna fail. Your baby is going to fail. So it's one thing to get ousted. And at first, people were reporting like, "Oh, O'Keefe resigns." Like he told his staff, he's like, "They like stripped me of my power. Like I didn't just decide to leave you all." So it's one thing to just be kicked out. It's another thing to know that everything that you put into this is not gonna make it. It's not gonna exist. Now, maybe they'll keep trucking along and try it a little bit, but I don't see how you can foresee it being what it has been or is at all. And there's some people who are like, hold off, just like, here's some more stuff from the board, and I don't understand that motivation. Jenna Ellis is one person who's like, just wait for some more facts about the board, and I'm like, we're hearing stuff, we're listening, and it does not sound good. It doesn't sound good at all on their part. But interesting story. Let's move on. Let's move on. So Biden was in Ukraine. Oh, you know what? Let me show you. I think I got one more video before I go. Let me just double check because I think I did have the one with the text message. If I don't, I'll move on. I don't. But there was a text message that he showed that was sent to a journalist. It was like, if we kick out O'Keefe, like you'll get a raise. So super shady stuff. But anyway, let's move on to the Ukraine situation. So very quickly, here's a moving speech by Biden.
Would we respond, or would we look the other way? Would we be strong, or would we be weak? Would we, all of our allies, would be united or divided?
Moving stuff right there. So that was a bit of his speech in Poland. Yeah, so he went to Ukraine, I'm sure for photo ops, and so the media can gush about how brave he is because they can't talk about how competent he is. The competency was just like thrown out of the window after Afghanistan, and that's when his poll numbers really started tanking because people couldn't just be like, "Oh, he's just a sweet old man," because he didn't come off very sweet during that whole debacle, and people could really see. I mean, he pitched himself as like the person who's gonna bring sanity back, and that just shook the world. Like, nah, I'm very unstable. Like the world's not gonna be automatically been a better place because you got rid of the orange bad man. Maybe it's gonna be a little worse. So it did shake people and shook a lot of people's faith, and it made him look like a jerk. So he's trying to, I would say, build his image probably back up because he doesn't need to be there. But the media is gushing, so I would assume this is a bit of why he went. But I want to go through this particular narrative that people are building around this that is really, really dumb.
Has some wind at his back. I'm not sure that it was all pre-planned, but it has certainly all been well executed. His back and forth with the nuttiest of the nutty Republicans at the State of the Union pulling off this trip and these images of defenders of democracy from two very different generations walking shoulder to shoulder in Kyiv. What do you make of this moment in the Biden presidency?
Well, it's very important because in the back of everyone's mind, there's always a contrast. There's always a comparison. And this kind of dovetails with what you talked about earlier, that when the president runs for re-election, it is not a referendum on him. It is a choice. And if you compare and contrast Donald Trump was afraid to go to Afghanistan. And Afghanistan.
Donald Trump was afraid to stay upstairs during the Black Lives Matter protests.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't want to play any more of this video. That's the narrative, because I'm seeing it, and everyone's like, he's so brave. Trump wasn't brave, or he's so brave to do this, etc. Blah blah blah. And landing, there's like sirens and stuff, which it's coordinated for him to be there and to be safe. And if people really thought that it wasn't safe, they wouldn't be like just kind of slow walking by. And so much of it is performative. But what are they on talking about? Trump was too afraid to go to Afghanistan. Like what are they on? How can you? Because this is a news channel, right? We are watching news, or a snippet of the news. I know it's MSNBC, but is it not the news? Like, do we not remember him going to Afghanistan for Thanksgiving? And it was secret, like in the middle of the night or something. They were all like, "Oh, Trump." They were really mad that he didn't do something else. They're really upset. The media's like, "Oh, Trump didn't do this. Trump didn't do this." They're like, "Oh, he's serving meals to our troops in Afghanistan." So that happened. So, and I think that was his first visit to them there. So, there's that. So people talking about how Biden is so brave and Trump didn't even go to Afghanistan. What are you on? Are you in Hunter's Supply? Like, did you find his Parmesan cheese? Which I posted a picture of Parmesan cheese yesterday on Facebook, and someone did not get the reference. So people don't know, Hunter, when he really wanted a fix or whatever, I guess couldn't find crack. He would go to Parmesan cheese. He said he's probably sniffed more Parmesan cheese than anyone you know. And I don't know anyone who's done that. At least I don't think. I certainly don't know anyone who would admit that. So are they on his stash? And then there's also, this, to the point about BLM or Trump, they're saying Trump was too afraid about the BLM thing. I find that so disrespectful. And I remember on Twitter, people mocking Trump and calling him basement boy, because they like put him down, or basement boy or bunker boy, one of the two, because of BLM outside the White House and stuff. So are you guys pretending that there wasn't riots and all that stuff going on, or you really think that if it was peaceful protests or whatever, and there wasn't like the summer of the riots and fiery, mostly peaceful protests and stuff, that he wouldn't have just been up, I don't know, stairs having a taco bowl or something, whatever he did every night? You don't. If the president was in danger, any danger, you do try to secure them, just period. But for people to just laugh as if people didn't have any concerns. No, like I saw it. I don't know how much people are memory holing or how much people were just willfully blind to, but I remember seeing footage after footage after footage after footage of different riots. I remember when there was nothing that was crazy that broke out in Michigan and stuff. They shut that stuff down real quick. But there was one thing that was like, oh, there's some people marching, and it was getting kind of like close. And I'm like, well, this is concerning, but nothing ever like, we didn't have like a Kenosha or something like, that broke out. But there was wild stuff that was happening. Wild stuff that was happening. And but in contrast, if they clear out protesters, or the story was that they use gas canisters to clear out protesters for a photo op with Trump holding the Bible. They were so mad about that, which that wasn't even true, by the way. I don't know if people were aware that got debunked eventually. I think sometime after the election. They flip out about that. So I think it's pretty egregious for a host on MSNBC to go along and laugh and mock about him. He was scared to stay upstairs during a BLM protest. No respect for, I know they have no respect for Trump, but just no respect for the safety of the president. People are wilding out and crazy and doing some violent stuff, burning stuff, smashing windows. People died during BLM protests. But there were actual incidents at rallies when, I forget which rally it was, but there was like a noise or something, and the Secret Service like jumped on him, and he didn't seem to panic too much, at least in his face, because people replayed it back, and but you don't want something to happen to a president, even if you don't like the guy. That would be awful. It's always like a national tragedy. It's sets things in the chaos for folks. But it's MSNBC. It's MSNBC. So yeah, they want to gush over this talking point. It's so stupid. It doesn't make sense. Biden would barely even leave his basement to face voters during the election. And they want to act like he's so brave. Okay. I just want to give a shout out to people in the comments. I do see you. I do quickly read over things. I don't address everything because I don't want to kind of lose my thoughts, but I do appreciate people who watch live, who comment. That does help with boosting it in different places. And I'm grateful to people who always watch me back, whether it's watching the entire live back or watching different clips later. Very, very much appreciated. Last thing I want to address, because that's like basically all I wanted to say about the Ukraine thing, honestly. So we reported that the story about Don Lemon and Nikki Haley. So Nikki Haley had said something about being in her prime. And it's a dig at, Biden. It's a dig at Trump because they're up there in their age. And Biden is definitely not in his prime. And neither is Trump, but he seems to be better off along than Biden. But Biden is sad to watch, to be frank. But she's in her prime. Now Don Lemon, who got shoved down to a morning show with two co-anchors who are female, talked about Nikki Haley. And said she should be careful talking about people in their prime because women in their prime are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, not, Nikki Haley. And so that was a moment where he just wanted to dig at her. And I guess he just expected, we're all leftists. Let's all dig on Nikki Haley. But the other two ladies are still women. And they're like, hold on a second. Like, what do you mean? Do you mean prime as far as like fertility, like childbearing? Like, what are your parameters? And he's just like, just look at Google. Just look at Google. And they went back and forth with him a bit. So people were not okay with that segment. Now, I don't know. I find it interesting commentary, I guess, to talk about. I didn't hear that and get all super offended. And I think mostly people on the right talking about it were probably more like talking about the commentary, not having feelings hurt or anything like that, which Nikki Haley replied to it, etc. But the next morning, they were like, Don has the day off. And I'm like, everyone's like, he doesn't have the day off. That's not what happened. So no, Don Lemon, spoiler alert, did not have the day off. CNN head was very upset. So he's supposed to be back on Wednesday, and he had a frank and meaningful conversation with Chris Litch per memo tonight. This is Jeremy Barr who's reporting this. No relation. Is getting some of the formal training as well as continuing to listen and learn. And Litch said, we take the situation very seriously. CNN President Chris Litch on this decision to bring back Don Lemon this week after his Women in Their Prime comment on Thursday. It is important to me that CNN balances accountability with fostering a culture in which people can own, learn, and grow from their mistakes. So some people are laughing about it. Stephen Miller said a 56-year-old man is getting formal training on what? And Robbie Starbucks said, I'd pay to see his DEI struggle session. He has pushed this lunacy, and now he gets to deal with a woke corporate shaming ritual for the crime of having a stupid opinion. He deserves every second of it. So it is funny. It is funny. So yeah, it was I thought it was a silly comment though. I mean, there were some professional women who did go at it in the threads, in different threads on Twitter, because if you're a politician, you can't even run for president until you're 35 years old. So being in your early 50s to run a race for president, that's especially after having, some meaningful things that you've accomplished in your political career, that's that she's in her prime. She's, I guess the best time of her life to run, though I will say I don't think she's getting very far. I definitely would not put money on Nikki Haley. I think it's really going to be down to Trump or DeSantis. I know DeSantis hasn't announced yet, but I think those are the only two real contenders. Though I haven't gone into it yet, but the media is so they're having this particular attack as of late that I can't think of her name. The Republican on The View, the conservative on The View. She did a couple of segments attacking. Well, I guess it was one segment, but it was different clips or whatever. It was attacking Ron DeSantis and trying to make it seem like he's not an actual conservative, that he's just like an outrage culture person piggybacking off of conservatism. So and Hogan mentioned that that DeSantis is actually a big government and not a conservative kind of guy. So they definitely have a narrative that they're pushing. And I know I have some people who are torn, who follow me, who are ready to get back on the Trump train. And there's people who are like, I'm concerned. I think DeSantis will have a better shot. It does genuinely seem like Trump is the media's pick, and they want Trump because they think, well, one, a lot of people make a lot of money around Trump. People in the media, for sure. There's a lot of people who have different grifts that really rose to prominence under Trump around the time of Trump. He's, people got merch to sell, all that good stuff. He can fundraise, or people can fundraise around his name, whether they love him or they hate him, they support him or they don't. He's a whole sort of universe, so there's lots of reasons for why people want him or wouldn't want him. So, but there's also if they want him because they don't feel in the end that he will actually win. So there's people pushing him for that reason too. Whether you agree with that or you don't, he definitely seems like the person that the media at large do want. So we'll make that case another day because we are getting toward our hour mark. So I'm going to wrap it up. I chuckle at the Don Lemon thing. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please go to blacktnews.com. Check out different content on my website, different articles, etc., which Thank you to everyone who took the time to read my article about the the Lift Every Voice, aka the Black National Anthem, as it has actually been called for 100 years or so. I didn't know it was quite that long actually till I started researching it, but I do know that, for instance, since I was a kid, that has been like what it's been referred to as, and it's like a term of endearment, at least. I don't know. There could be crazy people out there who want to start their own nation, and that's why they say it that way. But I how I've always heard it or whatever expressed, I would take it more of a term of endearment. But there were some people who were had an opposite opinion, and then they read it. They're like, "Oh, well, I learned some things, and I actually agree." So thank you to not, and I don't just because you read it, I don't expect everyone to agree with my opinions. I'm just sharing my experience, my perspective. But I do thank everyone who takes the time to read and to I guess understand where I'm coming from. So thank you guys for that. And please make sure that you go to the website and then you drop in your email so you know when you get different updates on we got some new merch or if there's an event coming up or different articles that are dropping. Um, we'll be definitely covering some more local stuff as we watch some of the issues with the guns going on. Please check out different merch that we have at the store that does help, that does support. If you can, consider legal donation at blacktnews.com/donate. It does cost to stream, cost to run my website, cost to do a bunch of overhead stuff. So if you can help with that, God bless you. I am not monetized yet on YouTube, and I have no idea if they want to monetize me, to be frank, because you do have to apply, and then they do look at some stuff, and they're like, "Well, what's your popular videos?" And a lot of you came over because of my videos on trans stuff, and I don't know how YouTube's gonna feel about that, to be frank. So it might just be me and you in this together for a while. So if you can help, I appreciate that. And if you can, I thank you guys for watching, for subscribing, hitting notification bells, for commenting, for adding people. Say, hey, check this girl out. Some of you were so sweet at the convention on Saturday, and someone was in the bathroom with me, and they recognized me, and they're like, where have I seen you? And I said, and I thought about saying why I sang the national anthem last time, and I'm like, Black T News, and they're like, oh my gosh, I love you. And so we took a picture, but she was telling everybody like around her, like, you should go follow her page, you should go follow her page. That is, it's a little awkward because I'm super introverted, and maybe that's hard for you guys to believe because I come and talk in front of a camera all the time, and I did sing in front of those thousands of people. But I'm okay with that, like singing and stuff. I've been doing that since I was a kid, and I preach, by the way. So being up on stage performing, like speaking, no problem with that, really. I used to be a little nervous about singing the national anthem. I've done enough times that I'm pretty confident with it now. But room to room sometimes is kind of awkward. Like face to face, like talking to folks, that's fine. It's a little weird, like the you get a little embarrassed when people compliment you. I still have a bit of that, but everybody was so sweet. And I very much appreciate it. Now, one going like room to room and working a room, that's still like me pushing myself up of a comfort zone. So that's something I'm continuing to grow and work on. But it's funny how life just builds opportunity that just makes you have to grow out of your shell. And so many people find that to be a bad thing, like the world's not built for them. And I had said this, I think I was standing up preaching one day, and I was talking about my journey from being so in my shell to doing what I'm doing, because I think someone had mentioned on TikTok that they felt like the church didn't make space for introverts. And I can empathize with that, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know that they should do that, because I said, I don't think it was God's design for you to be so basic or something like that. And I started just explaining like how my path was set in life to push me beyond the barriers I have on myself. And because I had to push past those barriers, it put me into directions that my life took that are very positive. But I couldn't do that if I was just like, I don't know, in my shell, work in the back room at Target, Christina or something. I had to like keep pushing, 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 and pushing. So I guess last message of the day is to continuously keep pushing yourself and to get uncomfortable, because if you don't get uncomfortable, you'll always be at the base level that you are if you don't stretch your limbs a bit. So I know it's hard for introverts. I know it's hard, but some people are so surprised to even find out how introverted I am. I promise you, I am. Um, but everybody's got to grow up one day, so we'll keep growing together. God bless you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.